Darkness surrounded the broken ship, drifting through space. The stars outside were cold and quiet. Inside, only silence. The ship had once been part of a powerful fleet, full of life, orders, and missions. Now it was a dead shell, floating without purpose in the middle of the ship. Lying in a hallway covered in smoke and dust was a creature. His name was Zerawan. He was not human. His skin was gray-blue, with faint scars glowing like old fire. His body was hurt, his breathing slow. He was still alive, but just barely. Zerawan slowly opened his eyes. Pain hit him like a storm. His side burned, and his left leg would not move. He tried to remember what happened, but his memory was broken. Only pieces came back. Explosions, screaming, betrayal. He reached out to a wall to pull himself up. The metal was cold under his hand. Lights flickered, and the sound of broken wires filled the air. He looked around, no other signs of life. He was alone and forgotten. He limped through the hallway, each step sharp with pain. He passed dead control panels, broken glass, and blood trails that led nowhere. He checked each door, hoping someone else survived. No one answered. No one was left. He entered what used to be the bridge. The large screen showed only static. The captain's chair was empty. Zerawan sat on the floor and closed his eyes. His people had left him behind, just like that. Was it a mistake? No, it was a choice. They had sacrificed him. Suddenly, the ship shook. A loud beeping noise echoed through the hallway. Something had grabbed the ship, a tractor beam. He moved to the nearest panel and forced it to work. His vision cleared. He saw another ship outside, a human salvage vessel. Zerawan froze. He remembered the war. Humans were not to be trusted. They were clever, fast, and dangerous. His kind had fought them for years and lost. Now they were pulling his ship in. He had to hide. He limped back through the halls, found a storage room, and locked himself inside. There was little air, but it would do. He grabbed a broken pipe, his only weapon, and waited. Minutes passed, then footsteps echoed in the ship. Voices speaking English. One voice was sharp and strong. A woman's voice cleared this deck, she ordered. They might have left traps. Another voice replied, "Looks empty so far, Captain." Zerawan gripped the pipe tighter. His heart beat fast. He knew humans wouldn't show mercy. They would kill him more worse. He pressed himself into the shadows, holding his breath. Then the door opened. Light spilled into the room. A tall human woman stood there in a black spacesuit. Her helmet covered her face. Behind her, two more humans carried scanners. She saw him. She raised her weapon. Zerawan swung the pipe, but his body was too weak. He fell to the ground, gasping. The woman did not shoot. Instead, she knelt beside him. Her voice was calm. "You're hurt," she said. Zerawan looked at her in shock. He expected anger, violence, but saw concern. He tried to speak, but no words came. Just a low growl from his throat. She tapped her helmet, and it opened. Now he saw her face. She had brown eyes, short hair, and a long scar across her jaw. She looked strong, but not cruel. "My name is Captain Mira Donovan," she said. "You're not a threat, are you?" Zerawan didn't answer. He closed his eyes, expecting the end. But instead of a gunshot, he felt a warm cloth on his wound. She was cleaning it. Her crew looked unsure. Captain One said, "That's a Varnock soldier. They killed thousands during the wars." Myra didn't stop. "This one is barely alive." She said, "Look at him. He's broken." She turned to Zerawan again. "You don't have to be afraid," she said softly. "You're safe now. Safe." That word felt strange to him. No one had said that word to him before. They carried him to their ship. Zerawan drifted in and out of sleep. He heard voices, felt machines scanning him. He felt pain, but it was pain with purpose. They were healing him. He woke up in a white room. Lights were soft. air clean, a medical bay. One of the humans sat near his bed, reading from a tablet. She looked up and smiled. "You made it," she said. "I'm Dr. Ellen Joe. You're—" "Lucky Mira found you." Zaruin blinked slowly. His body felt lighter, but his mind was heavy. Why had they saved him? Dr. Joe gave him food, simple broth and water. He took it slowly, unsure. She watched him like a scientist, but not without kindness. Outside the medbay window, he saw stars moving. They were far from his old fleet now, far from his people. He was truly alone, but he was alive, and the humans, for some strange reason, had chosen not to kill him. Captain Mira visited later that night. She stood by the bed, arms crossed. "You're thinking we should have left you?" she said. "You're probably right." Zaruin stared at her. She continued, "But we don't leave people behind, not even ex-enemies." He frowned. Enemies? Yes, that's what he was. And yet he was here. Mira turned to leave. She paused at the door. "I don't know who you were," she said, "but maybe it's time to decide who you want to be now." The door closed behind her. Zaruin looked down at his hands once. Used to destroy, now shaking, unsure. He was still broken, still alone. But something had changed for the first time in his life. Someone had seen him not as a weapon, not as a tool, but as a life worth saving. And for a creature like Zaruin, that meant more than he could understand. He lay back, eyes open to the soft, sealing light. And he whispered a word he had never said before, a word that echoed in his heart. Why? That question would lead to answers, to change, to something more. But for now, in the quiet hum of the human ship, Zaruin rested, not just to heal, but to begin. She said one word, share. Jace smiled. Maybe they didn't need the same language after all. The next day, things changed. JC went out early to the junkyard, searching for a new capacitor. He climbed into an old military crawler, checking. Inside, he found what he needed, and something else. Footprints, fresh, not his. Not hers, bigger. He crouched, silent, listened, waited. Nothing but someone had been there. Back at the hangar, Jace didn't tell Vera right away. He didn't want to worry her. Instead, they worked harder. Faster, the ship was nearly ready, maybe 5 more days. But that night, he couldn't sleep. He kept a hand on his energy pistol. He watched the shadows. The following evening, Jace and Vera were reattaching the flight stabilizer. She reached out to adjust a core wire, but it sparked. Electric pulse hit her arm. She cried out. Jace jumped forward, caught her before she fell. She was breathing fast, her skin glowing faint blue. He held her steady. "I'm here," he said. Softly, her fingers clutched his shirt. "Don't let them take me," she whispered, barely able to say it in English. Jace nodded, heart beating fast. "They won't." As night fell, they sat together on the roof of the hangar. 2 figures, one human, one not, staring at the same stars. She leaned against him. He didn't pull away, for the first time in a long time. Neither of them felt alone, but down in the dark streets. Something moved. A flash of red light blinked between buildings. A shape, tall, watching. Its hand opened, revealing a signal device. The tracker lit up. Target found. Coordinates locked. Back. Inside the hangar, Vieira's ship core flickered suddenly. A warning light blinked. JACE noticed. So did she. She ran over, tapped the screen. Alien letters scrolled fast. Her face changed. Fear. She turned to Jace. "They are close." "How close?" he asked. She didn't answer, just pointed to the stars above and the shadows below. The wind carried dust through the ruins. It moved like smoke, silent, slow, hiding things. Inside the hangar, Jace checked the perimeter again. For the 3rd time that day, he had set traps. Old Earth tripwires. motion alarms, pressure sensors linked to blinking lights. Nothing fancy, just enough to slow something down, if it came. But deep inside, Jace already knew it wasn't coming. It was already here. Vera worked quietly, her fingers dancing over her ship's control core. She was updating flight protocols. The system needed to be ready at any second. Her face looked calm, but Jace had learned to read her eyes. And right now, her eyes were scared. She didn't speak much that day, but once, while adjusting a stabilizer, she stopped and said, "They don't stop. Never, if they find me. I disappear." Jace looked up from his tools. "Not if I'm here," he said. She looked at him, surprised then, with a faint smile, replied, "You are." Loud and full of junk. Jace laughed, better than full of fear. As night fell, they shut the hangar doors. Jace locked the panels, powered up the outer sensors, and armed the defense grid what little of it still worked. Then they waited, around midnight. The wind stopped. The world went still. Too still. Jace sat with his hand resting on his pistol. Vera sat near her ship, eyes fixed on the monitor. Then click.a. Tiny light blinked red on the sensor board. Movement, outside. Jace stood. So did Vera. They moved without speaking, silent agreement. He took the west door. She took the east. Jace peeked through a crack in the wall. Nothing, but his ears heard something. A sound, like breathing. But mechanical, then crunch, something. Stepped on broken glass. Inside the hangar. JSC turned fast, gun up. A shape stood near the back wall. Tall, black armor. Red eyes glowing under a mask. It wasn't human. Its body moved like liquid metal, but heavy. Each step was slow. Controlled, it scanned the room. Didn't speak. Vera saw it too. She froze, then whispered, "Seeker." The Seeker turned toward the sound. Jace fired first, 3 plasma shots. Direct hit, nothing. The creature didn't even flinch. It raised one hand. A blast of blue energy shot toward Jace. He dove behind a crate, barely missed. Vera ran toward the ship. "Okay." She grabbed a small alien weapon from the tool rack. The Seeker followed her fast. Too fast, too fast. Jace popped up and fired again. This time at a pipe near the ceiling. Steam burst out. The Seeker turned, distracted just enough. Vera shot her weapon. A sharp beam of white light hit the Seeker's side. It stumbled. Jace ran forward, swung a metal rod, and smashed the back of its head. Sparks flew. The Seeker roared a deep sound, like metal grinding inside a volcano. Together, they fought. Vera used her light beam. Fast and sharp, JSC moved with scrap tools and brute force. It wasn't clean. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. The Seeker fell to one knee. Jace grabbed a shot core and jammed it into the creature's chest. With a loud crack, the Seeker's armor exploded in sparks. It collapsed, dead. The room went silent again. Jace stood there, panting. Vera dropped to her knees, shaking. He rushed to her. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "No, but that was just one." Jace looked down at the creature. Its mask was cracked. Behind it, metal wires, artificial skin. Not alive. Not dead. More like a machine built to kill. Vera stood up slowly and walked to the Seeker's wrist. She pulled off a small device. A red light blinked, then stopped. She looked at Jace. It sent signal. "Before we hit it now, others know." Jace felt cold. How many more? She stared at the floor. Hundreds. They had no time. Jace began loading tools into the ship. Extra energy cells. Weapons, food packs. Vera checked the nav system. Recalibrated. Thrusters. Outside. The wind returned, but this time it carried something else, a low hum in the far distance. The sound of engines multiplied later as they sat beside each other, exhausted and bruised. Jace said quietly, "You still want to run alone?" Vera didn't answer right away. Then she looked at him and said, "I left my people because they wanted war. They made seekers. I said no. I ran." She looked at him, her voice soft. "You're human. But you fight for me, even when I bring death." Jace looked her in the eyes. "You're not the danger. You're the reason I care again." That night, they didn't sleep. The stars above blinked cold, and somewhere, far across the black sky, a fleet of ships turned toward Earth. Guided by a dead seeker's signal, the sky turned orange at dawn. But it wasn't the sun, it was flames. In the clouds, something had entered the atmosphere. Not one, not two. Dozens. Inside the hangar, Jace tightened the last bolts on the stabilizer. His hands were covered in grease. His shirt was torn. His eyes were tired, but focused. Vera checked the power core. Her fingers moved fast. Her breath quick. Both knew what this was. The final day. Either they leave now, or they never leave at all. The ship was nearly ready. Wings aligned. Engine warmed. Shield generator charged. But the core wasn't fully stable. The ship might hold, or it might fall apart in the upper sky. Didn't matter. Better to burn in the air than be torn apart on the ground. A low rumble shook the walls. Jace ran to the window above the city ruins. 3 black ships hovered silent, massive, like flying tombstones. Their engines glowed deep red. Dropships began falling from them, heading straight toward the hangar. He turned to Vera. "We have to go." Now she looked at the nav screen. A red warning blinked. Core 72% stable. Safe launch not guaranteed. Turned to Jay's voice flat. "We may die." Jay smiled. "Then we go together." The hangar doors opened with a slow metal groan. Dust flew as the ship hovered above the ground. Jax sat at the co-pilot seat. Vera took the lead. Outside, the first dropship landed on a nearby building. Shadows moved inside it. The Seekers had arrived. The ship rose higher than ZAAKK. A blue bolt fired from a Seeker weapon below. It hit the wing. Sparks flew. The ship spun slightly. Jace held the controls. "We're hit!" Vera shouted, engaging shield hold. She slammed her hand on a glowing panel. A thin layer of light wrapped around them. Another blast hit but bounced off this time. Jace grinned. "Nice trick." Vera didn't smile. More coming. From behind a broken tower, a new ship appeared, sleek, fast, shaped like a blade. A Hunter-class interceptor. It locked onto them. "Target locked," Vera whispered. They didn't need translation. It meant death. The alien fighter chased them across the sky. Jace saw old Earth satellites burning above as they passed. "Can we outrun it?" he asked. Vera shook her head. "No." "Can we outfight it?" She paused, then smiled for the first time that day. "Yes." Vera pulled the ship into a sharp dive. Jace's stomach flipped. Buildings rushed past. The interceptor followed fast, smooth, angry. "Ready weapons," she said. Jace looked around. "What weapons?" She pressed a switch. Panels opened on the ship's sides. Twin energy cannons unfolded. Jace raised an eyebrow. "I like this ship more now." The interceptor fired. Mist.vir, a looped under a collapsed bridge. Jace shot back his aim, wild, but enough to distract the enemy. The alien ship followed again. Closer, closer, VIR, waited, then now. She shouted. JC fired both cannons. The interceptor exploded in a ball of white fire. Debris rained down. Jay sat back. panting. We did it? Vera didn't answer. She was staring at the sky. He followed her gaze. Above them, far above, loomed the mother ship. Massive, it blocked out the sun. Inside the cockpit, the alert blared. Tractor beam detected. The ship started shaking. They weren't flying anymore. They were being pulled. Jace hit controls. Nothing responded. The ship was caught. Vera's face went pale. "They want me alive," she said. "But you, they'll erase." Jace looked at her. Double quotes, "No, we don't let them win." He unbuckled, ran to the back, grabbed a shock core battery from the supply crate. "What are you doing?" Vera called out. He came back, eyes determined. "If I overload this core and reroute the power, maybe we can break the beam." She looked at him. "You could die." He nodded. Better than being taken apart. They worked together. Sweat, wires, sparks. The ship shook harder. Red light filled the windows, then -vir a turn to him. "Do it now." Jace slammed the override switch. The core surged. The ship screamed. The tractor beam flickered, broke, and suddenly they were free. The ship tumbled, fell like a stone. Stabilizers offline. Vera shouted. "JAC, grab the manual lever." They pulled together hard. The ship leveled, barely just. Above the ocean, silence, only the sound of waves now. They had escaped. For now, Vera looked at him, eyes full of something he didn't expect, fear, relief. "And something else. You would have died for me." Jace nodded, tired. "I already did, just didn't finish the job." Vera took his hand, held it tight. "We run. Together now." Jace smiled. "Not running. We're going home. Yours or mine, we'll find out." Behind them, the sky still burned. But ahead, the stars were wide open, and this time, they were not alone. The stars were silent, but the silence didn't bring peace. It brought judgment. Vera's ship entered orbit around homeworld Aravia, a planet of light, clouds, and towering silver spires that floated above oceans of mist to Jace. It looked like heaven, but Vera didn't smile. "This is not a homecoming," she said. "It's a courtroom." Jace looked at her. "And what am I here, witness or prisoner?" She didn't answer. As they landed, a fleet of escort ships surrounded them. Long, sleek, glowing blue. No weapons pointed at them, but the message was clear. You are watched. You are unwanted. The ship touched down on a sky platform made of glass and light. Vera stepped out first. Her posture strong, but her hands shook. Jace followed, eyes scanning the alien world. Dozens of Vera's people stood in silence, dressed in long robes and smooth armor. Tall, pale-skinned, glowing eyes. They stared at Jace like he was dirt beneath their boots. One of them stepped forward, an older male with a silver crown and dark robes. "Vera, ha," he said coldly. "You return with him." She nodded. "He saved my life many times." The man's eyes turned to Jace. "Then perhaps he will save his own." They were taken to a grand hall. Shining crystal walls. A circle of judges floated above, robes flowing like smoke. This was no simple council. This was the tribunal of purity. Vera stood beside Jace. Her voice was firm. "I left because we built monsters, because I wanted peace. I found it with him." A judge's voice rang out, clear and sharp. "You brought a human and undeveloped, violent species into our skies. He touched our bloodline." Another judge, "Is he your protector or your infection?" Jace stepped forward. "I'm just a man. But I helped her when no one else did. That's not a virus. That's choice." The council whispered, then came the decree, the trial of balance. Vera was taken away. Jace was led down into the stone halls beneath the court. No windows, just metal, stone, and silence. A voice spoke through the walls. If you survive the trial, you may live. If you prove courage, she may stay. If you fail, both end. Mai smiled grimly. Sounds fair. They dropped him into the trial chamber. A wild moon, red soil, black sky, gravity heavier than Earth. The air burned his lungs. The sun never rose. He had no weapons, no map, no VIR. Just a voice in his ear. Her voice, Jace, she whispered through the combs. Don't stop. Don't give them fear. He replied, weak but steady. I'm only afraid of losing you. The first night brought creatures, shadow beasts with eyes like stars and teeth like razors. Jace used rocks, metal shards, traps he built from pieces of his own suit. He bled. He fell. He got back up. The second night brought firestorms, burning, winds that melted trees. Jace hid inside a dead beast's bones. He sang to himself just to stay sane. The third day his water ran out. He walked anyway. At the edge of a cliff, a drone hovered. Watching, he shouted at it. Is this enough? How many times must I bleed before you believe we're not all monsters? No answer, but it flew away, and the path forward lit up on the final night. Jace collapsed near a river of glowing liquid. He was shaking, hallucinating stars above spun, like wheels. Then he saw her, Vera, kneeling beside him. Touching his face, he smiled. You're not real, he said. She leaned closer. Real enough. He reached for her hand and passed out. When he woke up, he was no longer on the moon. He was back in the glass courtroom, in fresh clothes. Cleaned wounds, Vera stood beside him, eyes red, hands holding his. He looked around. The neat council sat in silence. Then one judge spoke. 3 nights, 3 trials, no weapons, no lies. Another said he walked through death, not for war, but for her. The elder stepped forward. Human, what do you seek? Jace took a breath. I don't want to steal your world. I just want to be part of hers. Silence then accepted. Later, alone in the soft gardens of Arevia, Vera took Jace's hand and placed it over her heart. You changed me, she said. You made me believe again. Jace smiled, tired but happy. I didn't fix your ship for thanks. She leaned closer. I know. That's why I want to stay in your arms, not just in your world. Jace looked up at the sky, the stars beyond. Then let's build a new one. Together. The stars looked closer now, not just because Jace was living among them, but because, for the first time in years, he actually looked up and smiled. It had been 3 weeks since the tribunal allowed Vera to stay. 3 weeks since Jace proved that humanity was more than war, more than survival. It was choice, sacrifice, and love. They lived now on a quiet outpost above Arevia, a floating station with gardens, tech labs, and open skywalks. Peaceful, safe. It wasn't Earth, it wasn't her world either, but maybe it was theirs. Jace stood under a tree with silver leaves, working on a solar panel. He wore a new jacket, clean, fitted with Aravian symbols stitched in blue thread. He still fixed things. He still got grease on his face. Some things never change. Behind him, he heard soft footsteps. He didn't turn. Let me guess, he said. You rewired the main relay. Again, Vera's voice came with a smile. You wired it wrong. I simply saved the station from exploding. Jace grinned. One of these days, you'll say, thank you. I just did. He turned now. She was holding a small device, a communication chip. What's that? He asked. She hesitated. A message, she said softly. From the council, they offered full citizenship. Jace raised his eyebrows. For you? For you? He blinked. Me? A human? They trust me that much. They don't, she said. But they trust me, and I trust you. They sat together on a ledge that overlooked the mist clouds. The sky above shimmered with distant moons. Vera took a breath. I could leave, you know? I could ask for a ship, disappear into the stars. Live alone, stay safe. Jace looked at her. Do you want that? No, she said. Not anymore. She turned to him, serious now. I don't want to be saved. I want to choose. That's what I learned from you. He stayed quiet. Then, he said, you were never the one broken, Vera. You were the one who flew. I just gave you landing gear. She smiled, and her fingers found his. Later that night, in the workshop, Jace opened a crate. Inside were pieces of an old human Shutala mix of Earth tech and Aravian parts. He spread them on the table. Vera entered, confused. What is all this? Jace looked at her, eyes shining. Our ship? She paused. Ours. He nodded. We're not running anymore, not hiding. We're exploring, together. He pulled out a metal panel and held it up. I call it the Wild Fix. Vera laughed, actually laughed. That's a terrible name. Exactly why it's perfect. Over the next days, they built side by side. Metal, circuits, glass, memory cores. Stabilizers, some parts were old, some brand new. Some they built from nothing ideas, only they understood. When the ship's frame stood upright at last, Vera whispered, "It's not like mine." Jay said, "It's not like mine either." She smiled. Good. The day before launch, they sat under the stars again. Vera leaned against him. "Do you think your people will forgive us?" she asked. "For falling in love?" "No. For flying." Away. Jace thought for a moment. "Some will say we abandoned Earth. Some will say we found something better." She tilted her head. "And what do you say?" He looked into her eyes. "I say, I fixed your ship with scrap. You fixed my heart with hope. I say we didn't escape, we evolved." She didn't answer with words, just kissed him. The launch day was quiet, no crowds, no parades, just two people walking toward a ship they built from memory, pain, and promise. Before the door closed, Jace turned one last time to look at the planet behind them. It was beautiful. But it wasn't where he belonged anymore. Home wasn't a place. Home was the person beside him. As the ship rose through the clouds, the console lit up. VIRA piloted. Wired Stace watched the stars coming closer. "Where to?" she asked. He shrugged. "Where haven't we crashed yet?" She smiled. "Forward then." Out there between systems and suns, there were wars still raging. Planets still dying. Machines still hunting. But Jace and Vera had something the universe didn't expect. Each other, and a ship made of junk. Powered by love, stubbornness, and a very shaky warp drive. But that would do just fine, because sometimes the smallest spark is enough to light a galaxy. The ship moved slowly through deep space. Its engines hummed softly, and inside, the crew worked through the routine of survival. Repairs, checks, food runs, and keeping the system alive. But now, there was something new, aboard something unexpected. Zeruin. The alien once feared, now helped the crew like one of them. He had no uniform, no room full of medals. But people had started nodding at him in the hallway. Some still didn't trust him. But others had begun to change. That change started with one simple act: trust. Zeruin was in the ship's maintenance bay. He stood beside Luca, the young technician he had helped earlier. They were working on a power regulator together. Sparks flew as Luca adjusted the voltage line. "Here," Zeruin said, handing him the right tool. "You need to connect the blue wire first, or the feedback loop will burn the circuit." Luca smiled. thanks. You've saved me like 3 times this week. Zaruin gave a short nod. He didn't speak much, but his actions were enough. As they finished, the bay door opened. Walker stepped in, the same crew member who once hated Zaruin the most. His expression was still hard, his eyes cold. "We got a situation," Walker said, looking at Luca. "Captain wants you at the bridge." Luca looked confused. "Now?" "Now," Walker replied. Zaruin watched them, his senses sharp. Something about Walker's body language felt strange. When Luca left, Walker didn't. He stayed back, arms crossed, facing Zaruin. "You think we trust you now?" Walker said. "You fix a few engines, and you think you're one of us." Zaruin didn't react. "I do not think," he replied calmly. "I do what must be done." Walker stepped closer. "You fought in the Garon cluster, didn't you?" Zaruin nodded slowly. "I did. My brother was there," Walker said. "He never came home." There was silence between them. The hum of the ship filled the air like tension. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Zaruin said. "I'm not trying to be a hero." "But I did not kill your brother." Walker stared at him, fists clenched. Then he turned and walked away without another word. Zaruin stood there alone. He didn't expect peace, but at least there was no violence. Later, Captain Myra called Zaruin to the bridge. He entered slowly, eyes scanning the glowing panels and crew stations. Mira stood near the main console, watching a blinking light. On the screen, "We picked up a distress signal," she said, encrypted old code. "Possibly Varnock." Zaruin stiffened. "Where?" "Edge of the Darien Belt," she replied. "We'll be in range in 6 hours." Zaruin felt something stir inside. Was it a trap? Or was it someone he once knew? "You know what it could be." Mira asked. "Could be survivors," he said. "Or a ghost." Myra nodded. "If it's your people, what are you going to do?" Zaruin didn't answer right away. He looked at the stars on the screen, endless and silent. "I don't know," he said finally. "I don't trust them anymore." Mira placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then trust us," she said. "We'll face it together 6 hours later." The ship entered the Darien Belt. Asteroids floated like frozen giants. Shadows covering the light. The distress signal grew stronger. A single ship appeared on the scanners, damaged, floating, and Varnock. In design, Mira stood beside Zaruin as the image appeared on the main screen. "Recognize it?" she asked. Zaruin stared at it. "Yes," he said quietly. "That's the Zirkle. My old squad's scout ship." The bridge fell silent. Mira spoke firmly. "We're going in, weapons ready but not hot, if there's any sign of hostility." We leave as they approached. No weapons fired, no signals sent, just silence. A boarding team was prepared, 2 engineers, 1 medic, and Mira herself. To the crew's surprise, Zaruin joined the team without being asked. He wore no armor. Just a basic suit and tools. Myra looked at him. "You sure about this?" "Yes," Zaruin said. "They left me to die. I want to know why." The airlock hissed open. The smell inside the Varnock ship was old metal, fuel, and blood. Lights flickered, and sparks jumped from broken cables. They moved carefully, scanning each corner. Then they heard it weak breathing behind a sealed door. Zaruin stepped forward and opened it. Inside was a Varnock soldier, half-conscious, leaning against a wall. His eyes widened as he saw Zaruin. He whispered, "We thought you were dead." Zaruin's face stayed calm. "You made sure of that?" The soldier coughed. "No. It wasn't my call, Commander Delvik. He ordered us to retreat. You followed," Zaruin said sharply. "You didn't even check if I was alive." The soldier lowered his head. "I'm sorry," he said. "We were scared. We thought you were a liability." Mira and the others stood behind Zaruin. "Weapons ready." Zaruin turned to Mira. "He's alone. No weapons," he said. "Let's bring him aboard. Get answers." Mira nodded. Only if you're sure. I'm sure, Zerwin said, but I'm watching him back on the ship. The Varnock soldier was placed in the medbay. Zerwin sat outside, eyes watching every move. Walker passed by and stopped. You brought another one of them here, he asked, angry. You think this is some kind of rescue mission? Zerwin stood up slowly. This is not about saving him, he said. This is about knowing the truth. Walker shook his head. You better hope he doesn't betray us, because if he does, it's on you. Zerwin didn't answer. He just turned and stared through the medbay window. That night, Mira joined Zerwin in the commons room. She handed him tea again. You didn't have to go, she said, but you did. I needed to face it, he said. I needed to know I wasn't the only one left behind. Myra sipped. Her tea, you're earning trust, she said. It's slow, but it's real. I don't want their trust, Zerwin said quietly, but I don't want to be alone either. Mira looked at him for a moment, then smiled. You won't be, she said. Not if you keep walking forward. Zerwin looked at the stars through the wide window. His past still chased him, but now he wasn't running. He was standing, facing it, choosing his path, and for the first time, he felt something strange. Not fear, not shame, but maybe hope. The human ship drifted through quiet space. Its engines hummed in a soft rhythm inside. The crew had returned to their usual routines, but something had changed, something invisible but strong. Zerwin was no longer just a stranger, not fully. Trusted, not yet one of them, but slowly, he had become part of the flow, working with the engineers, helping with repairs, eating with the crew. And some had even begun talking to him not as an enemy, but as a person. Still, not everyone had accepted him. Walker remained distant, always watching, and others avoided his gaze in the hallways. But that didn't stop him. One evening, the silence broke. A sharp beep echoed through the bridge, a signal odd, encrypted, and familiar. Myra stood in front of the screen, arms crossed. The crew around her looked confused. It's a Varnock. Signal, Ellen said, adjusting the screen, short-range direct link. Someone's trying to reach us, Luca added, but they're not using open channels. Mira looked at Zerwin, who stood near the back of the bridge. Is this yours? She asked. Zerwin stepped forward. He studied the signal pattern. It was old, used by Varnock elite units. Yes, he said. It's a squad message. Yours. Mira asked again. He nodded slowly. It's from my old team. The bridge went quiet. No one moved. No one spoke. They're alive. Luca asked carefully. Maybe, Zerwin said. But this code, it's not just a hello. It's a location request. They want to know where we are. Myra asked. Yes, Zerwin said. They're trying to find me. Everyone looked at each other. Suspicion grew in the room like smoke. Myra stepped closer, her voice low but serious. Are they dangerous? Zerwin's eyes narrowed. I don't know, he said. But if it's them, they abandoned me. They won't be coming with hugs. Walker stepped forward. This could be a trap, he said. He gets the signal, tells his friends where we are. And boom, we're gone. I didn't send the signal. Zerwin said calmly. They reached out. Maybe you were always working with them, Walker snapped. Just waiting for the right time. Mira held up her hand, stopping the argument. No one's accusing anyone, she said. Not without proof. She turned back to the console. Can we trace it? Luca nodded. Yes, we have a rough location. It's coming from the edge of the Valdine field. That's a dead zone, Mira said. No trade routes, no colonies. Perfect place for an ambush, Walker said. Mira looked at Zerwin again. I need to know the truth, she said. If they're out there, we need to know what they want. Zerwin nodded slowly. I'll go, he said. Alone. No, Mira said, shaking her head. We're not sending you to die. You don't trust me, Zerwin said. It's fine, but I can face them. Myra paused, thinking. Then she looked around the bridge. Prep a small shuttle, she ordered. We'll go in quiet. Zarwin stared at her in surprise. You're coming. I started this with you, she said. I'll finish it with you a few hours later. The shuttle left the main ship. Only Mira, Zarwin, and Luca were on board. They moved slowly, engines low. Drifting into the Valdine field, asteroids passed. By like sleeping giants, Zarwin sat at the back. Quiet, he stared at the floor, his mind full of old voices and broken memories. What are you thinking? Mira asked, turning in her seat. Zarwin looked up. I don't know if I want to see them. He said, they left me? Then why did they call you? Luca asked from the front. Zarwin shook his head. I don't know, he said. But I'm going to find out. The signal grew stronger. Then they saw a Varnock ship, half damaged. Floating between two asteroids, no weapons, online. Luca said, no movement, still could be bait. Mira said, she looked at Zarwin. Ready? Zarwin nodded. I was born ready, he said, but I've never felt less sure. The shuttle docked. The doors opened. Myra stepped out first. Then Zarwin. They moved through the dark hallway. Weapons ready. Suddenly, a light flickered on. A figure stepped out from the shadows. It was Delvik, Zarwin's old commander, tall, armored. Scarred his face cold and proud. Zarwin, he said, you live. Barely, Zarwin replied. Thanks to your orders. Delvik stepped closer, his eyes scanning Mira. And you travel with a human. He said with disgust. She saved my life, Zarwin said. She gave me something you never did, mercy. Delvik laughed. Mercy is for the weak. He said, we thought you were dead, so we moved on. You left me, Zarwin said firmly. Not because I was dying, but because I questioned your orders. You were soft, Delvik said. Soft gets soldiers killed. Mira stepped forward. We're not here to argue, she said. Why did you send the signal? Delvik looked at her, then at Zarwin. Because we need him, he said. The Empire is collapsing. Most of our kind are gone. But with you, Zarwin, we can rebuild. Zarwin stared at him. You want me to come back? He asked. After everything? You were one of our best, Delvik said. You still are. No. Zarwin said, I'm not. I've changed. Changed? Delvik hissed. You wear their clothes, eat their food, speak their words. Have they brainwashed you? No. Zarwin said quietly, they freed me. Delvik stepped closer. Join us, or be our enemy, he said. Myra raised her weapon. Step back, she warned. Delvik laughed again. This is who you protect. He said, a human who hides behind machines and mercy. I'd rather die with her than live under you again, Zarwin said, suddenly. Movement came from the sides. Two more Varnock stepped out taming weapons. But before they could shoot, Mira fired. One dropped instantly. Zarwin grabbed the second and knocked him down. Delvik roared and charged. Zarwin met him head-on, fists slamming. It was not just a fight, it was a storm of rage and memory. Two warriors, one past, one future. Finally, Zarwin struck a final blow. Delvik fell, unconscious. Mira looked at him, breathing hard. You okay? Zarwin nodded. Now I am. They returned to the shuttle with Delvik in stasis. Luca flew them back, while Mira and Zarwin sat in silence. You didn't have to fight him, Mira said. I did, Zarwin replied. Not for revenge, for closure. He looked out at the stars. I'm not one of them anymore. He said, I'm not who I used to be. Mira smiled. Then who are you now? Zarwin looked at her. I don't know yet, he said. But maybe. I'm someone worth saving, and for the first time, he believed it too. The crew of the human ship stood on high alert. The corridors were quiet. But the tension could be felt everywhere. The prisoner commander Delvik was locked in the security chamber. Guards rotated every few hours. Weapons were kept ready. No one trusted the Varnak leader. And for good reason. Zerawan sat in the engine room, staring at the floor. He could feel the weight of his decision pressing on him like a heavy suit. He had fought his past, stood against his own kind, and chosen to protect humans. But now, a storm was coming, and this time, it wasn't just about survival. It was about loyalty. Captain Mira entered the room. Her steps firm and steady. She had her usual calm look, but her eyes showed concern. He's not talking. She said Delvik hasn't said a word since we locked him up. Zerawan nodded slowly. He's planning something. We know. She replied, we've increased patrols, sealed outer doors, and encrypted all comms. Zerawan stood up. I should speak to him. Mira frowned. Are you sure? He's mine to deal with, Zerawan said. I know how he thinks. Minutes later. Zerawan stood in front of the security door. The guard nodded and opened it slowly. Inside, Delvik sat with his arms crossed, calm and cold as ever. You came. Delvik said with a grin. Finally, you sent the signal, Zerawan said. You set the trap. Yes, Delvik admitted, and it worked. You knew we'd come. Zerawan said, I knew you would, Delvik replied. You've changed, but not enough. You still care. I care about truth, Zerawan said. And I care about those who didn't leave me behind. Delvik leaned forward. The humans will never accept you, he said. You are not one of them, and you never will be. I don't need to be one of them, Zerawan said. I just need to be something better than what I was. Delvik's eyes narrowed. You've grown weak, he said. They've infected your mind with kindness. They reminded me I'm more than a weapon. Zerawan said calmly. Delvik smirked. They'll regret it soon, he whispered. They don't know what's coming. Zerawan stepped forward. What did you do? Delvik didn't answer, but the ship's alarm suddenly blared. Red lights flashed, and the floor shook slightly beneath their feet. Mira's voice echoed through the speakers. All crew to battle stations, she said. We are under attack, Zerawan. Ran to the bridge. The screen showed multiple ships Varnak fighters. Fast and aggressive, they had come out of nowhere, using cloaking tech to stay hidden. Shields up, Mira ordered. Return fire. Walker stood at the weapons station. Fingers moving fast. We took a hit on the left thruster. He said, minor damage. Zerawan watched the screen. This was Delvik's plan, he said. He used the signal to lure us in. He's inside our ship, Mira said, and his people are outside. Zerawan turned to her. Let me end this. No, she said, you stay here. But before she could stop him, he was gone. Zerawan moved fast through the corridors. He passed crew members running to stations, carrying weapons, shouting orders. The air smelled like smoke. And fire. The ship shook again. Another hit landed. He reached the security chamber just as an explosion rocked the wall. The door had been blasted open. 2 Varnak soldiers stood inside. Weapons raised. Freeing Delvik, Zerawan didn't wait. He charged, slamming into one soldier. They hit the wall hard, struggling, grunting. Zerawan's fists moved fast, fueled by fury and pain. The second soldier turned to shoot but was hit by a blast from behind. Walker stood in the hallway, weapons smoking. He had followed Zerawan. Despite everything, Delvik growled, grabbed a fallen blaster, and aimed it at Walker. But Zerawan leaped between them. The shot hit him in the shoulder. He fell but rolled and kicked Delvik's legs out. Delvik fell hard, and before he could get up, Walker stunned him with a second blast. Silence returned for a moment. Walker stared at Zerawan. Breathing hard, you saved me, he said. Zerawan groaned, clutching his burned shoulder. You saved me first, he replied. They both helped. Each other up, Walker looked at him with new eyes. Guess I was wrong about you, he said. You're one of us. Zerawan gave a weak smile. Thanks, he whispered. Then passed out. Later, in the med bay, Zaruin woke to Mira, standing over him. "You took a hit," she said. "But you're alive." Zaruin sat up slowly. "I stopped Delvik," he said. "He won't hurt anyone again." Myra nodded. "He's back in the cell." And his fleet retreated once they saw we captured their leader. "They'll come back," Zaruin said. "They always do. Then we'll be ready," Mira replied. Zaruin looked at her. "Why didn't you stop me?" he asked. "When I ran off?" She smiled. "Because I trusted you," she said, "and you proved me right." Zaruin leaned back. He felt pain, but also pride. For the first time, he had chosen his side not out of fear, not for duty, but for what he believed in. Loyalty was no longer just a word from his past. It was something real, something earned, and he had earned it. Not from the Varnak, but from the humans who once feared him. Now they respected him. Some even called him friend. The fire had come, but he had stood his ground, and in that fire, Zaruin had found not destruction, but purpose. Days had passed since the battle. The human ship floated quietly in space, orbiting a small, peaceful moon. The wounds from the attack were healing both on the ship and inside the people who lived in it. Zaruin stood at the main observation deck, watching the stars. His left shoulder was still wrapped in a healing brace. Each movement brought a dull pain, but it reminded him he was still alive and that his life had changed behind him. The crew moved through the corridors with quiet energy. The fear was gone, replaced by a strange new feeling acceptance. People no longer stared at him like he was a threat. Now, some even greeted him by name. It was a small thing, but for Zaruin, it meant everything. He heard footsteps and turned. Captain Myra stood there, holding 2 mugs of tea. "You always watch the stars," she said, handing him one. "They remind me of who I used to be," Zaruin replied. "Cold, empty, drifting." She took a sip, then leaned on the railing beside him. "And now?" she asked. Zaruin looked at the stars again. "Now they look different," he said. "They're still far away, but they don't feel so lonely." Mira smiled. "You've changed a lot," she said. "Not just how you talk, but how you carry yourself." "I still don't understand humans," he admitted. "You care about things my people never taught me to care about." "That's what makes us human," she said. "We care even when it's hard." Silence settled between them. It was a calm silence, the kind that didn't need words. After a moment, Mira looked at him again. "We're heading toward the Haven system next," she said. "Big trading station, neutral zone." Zaruin nodded. "I've heard of it." "There's a council there," she said. "They meet once a cycle to discuss refugee matters." Zaruin turned to her. "Refugees?" She nodded. "People who don't have a home," she said. "Like you." He lowered his head. "I don't know if I belong anywhere," he said. "I don't know if I ever did." Mira placed a hand on his arm. "You belong here," she said. "Maybe not by blood, not by birth, but by choice." Zaruin didn't reply. But in his heart, the words stayed. "You belong here." Later that day, Myra called a meeting in the ship's commons room. The whole crew gathered, some sitting, some standing, Walker, Luca, Dr. Ellen, and even the ship's AI voice joined in. Zaruin stood near the back, unsure if he should be there. Mira stood at the front, her voice steady and clear. "We've been through a lot together," she said. "We've faced attacks, betrayal, and tough choices." She looked around the room, making eye contact with her people. "But we've also seen something rare." She continued. "Change." She gestured toward Zaruin. "This man came to us as an enemy," she said, "broken, lost, and alone. And now, he's one of the reasons we're still alive." The room stayed quiet, but all eyes turned to Zaruin. "He didn't ask for trust," Mira said. "He earned it." Walker stood up slowly. He looked at Zaruin, then at the rest of the crew. "I didn't trust him," Walker said. "I hated him." But when the moment came, he took a shot, meant. For me, that's more than some friends would do. Luca nodded. He fixed half the ship after the last fight, he added, and never asked for anything. Dr. Ellen stood as well. His blood is different, she said. But his heart is strong. Myra looked at Zeruin. Well, she asked, do you want to say something? Zeruin stepped forward slowly. He looked at the Cruzum who once feared him. Some who now respected him. I was trained to obey, he said. To fight, to destroy, to survive. But no one ever taught me how to live. He paused, searching for the right words. When you found me, I thought it was the end, he said. But it was the beginning. He looked at Myra. You showed me mercy, he said. Something my people never gave. He looked at the rest of the crew. You gave me purpose, he said. And now, if you'll have me, I want to stay. The room stayed quiet for a moment. Then Mira spoke, her voice clear and proud. You belong with us now, she said. Welcome home. A quiet cheer rose in the room, small but warm. No loud applause. No grand speeches, just a room full of people. And one alien who finally had a place. Later that night, Zeruin returned to his room. It was small, plain, but it was his. He sat on the bed, removed the healing brace, and looked at the silver badge beside his pillow. The same badge Mira had given him, the symbol of the crew. He picked it up, held it in his hand. For the first time in his life, it felt like it belonged there. The ship's hum was steady, calm, like a heartbeat. Outside, stars moved slowly across the window, but inside's ruin felt still, not alone, not abandoned, not forgotten. He belonged. Epilogue. Weeks passed. The ship arrived at Haven Station. Zeruin stood beside Mira as they walked through the crowded docking bay. Aliens of all kinds moved through the station, talking, laughing, trading. A child ran past and stared at Zeruin with wide eyes. Are you one of the bad guys? The child asked. Zeruin knelt down and smiled softly. I used to be, he said. But not anymore. The child nodded, smiled, and ran back to his family. Mira looked at Zeruin. Feels good, doesn't it? She asked. Yes, he said. It feels right, and in that moment, Zeruin knew the past would never disappear, but the future was his to shape. Not as a soldier, not as a weapon, but as part of something greater, as part of a crew, as part of a family, as someone who had finally heard the words he waited for his whole life. You belong with us now.